Hi everybody, this is part 2 of the ocean or aquarium bead prep section of my new series of videos, and this one is how to make a seaweed stringer. But I'm also going to have a short tutorial of how to encase adventurine, just in case you need to do that for other beads. So what I'm starting out with is a little chunk of green adventurine here. Looks very dark. And I'm going to be encasing this with greens and teals. You can also do it with clear, especially like for goldstone. But for the seaweed, I want to use some green color rods. And they're transparent, of course. So I'm just heating up my teal rod, pushing it down on the adventurine, but it broke off there. And that's fine. And you want to encase this. So I'm really not putting the adventurine in the flame. I'm just encasing it around with hot glass. I'm trying to do all the edges, all the sharp edges and such first, going around those sections so they don't burn off at all in the flame, and just encasing up that whole little section. And after this is all done, and I had a really shocky green rod there. There must have been an air bubble through it or something, but it was really horrible. So I'm just going to heat this teal. Now that that little chunk is all encased, it's safe to put in the flame. And so I'm going to heat it up and pick up the rest of that adventurine that's still on my marver there. Getting it nice and hot, and I'm smushing it over the whole thing and then picking it right up. And just keeping it next to the flame, not in it. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to encase around with my shocky green stringer or rod there. And I'm just trying to get the edges first because they're the most sensitive to the flame. And I got so tired. See, I threw that rod. I got so tired of that rod that I just threw it away. And now I'm using a pale blue stringer, and because I didn't have another green one on my bench available, but this will be okay because the teal and the other green will mix all in with it. So I'm basically going around this whole chunk, getting all the sides encased, making sure there's no adventurine exposed at all, because it's very sensitive to the flame. So you want to keep it protected. So I'm just going around with this blue, keep encasing until it's all covered. And so this is going to be a really dense adventurine stringer because I'm going to be using it on top of other colors and then pulled out into a very skinny form. So I want it really dense. If I was going to use this straight as it was, I probably would have added more green to it, more transparent color to it, so that it could be a little more dispersed in the color without being so dense. But since I am placing this on another stringer to be pulled out even thinner, I wanted it a really dense adventurine in there. So now I'm just mixing. So this is how you can mix colors, but it's also how you can mix adventurine. So I am folding it over on itself. I'm twisting in opposite directions with both hands. I also turn my rod, my right hand, at an angle a lot of times so that I'm having it fold around, like right there. I'm having it fold around on itself. So then I can get all the colors, the teal, the green, and the blue all kind of mixed and married together, as well as dispersing the adventurine throughout. And so you just keep twisting back and forth, and folding over like I did just right there. fold it over upon itself until you feel like it's mixed enough and it feels like it's pretty smooth. Now, green aventurine is pretty chunky, and these rods could be a little shocky at times, but that's just the way it is. Blue aventurine and goldstone, or gold aventurine, is a little smoother in its consistency. So usually you don't have as much shock with those, but they can also still be shocky. So I think I'm about just ready to pull this down, and I want about a 1 to 2 millimeter stringer, or a regular stringer size. And so I'm going to pull this out, and I'm still twisting as I pull, just so it keeps dispersing it as I pull. So I'm getting all that stringer out, and I'm going to just cut off the end there in the flame. And I have a nice long stringer of aventurine. And there's a close-up of the green aventurine stringer. And then I also made a blue aventurine stringer that I mixed with like a medium transparent blue. And I'm going to use that in the background, in the base colors of my ocean bead or aquarium bead. So those are always good to use too. So for the seaweed stringer, I'm going to use a little bit of light green. This is just pea green. And so I'm pulling out a stringer for the seaweed stringer I'm going to make. And I'm going to use this darker olive green. I think it's a CIM color. It could be leaf men or similar color to that. So it's like an olivey darker green. You can also mix a little bit of black in with your pea green to make a nice darker olivey type green also. So it's all up to you. And so I'm making my nice barrel shape like I usually do for stringers, so you can get consistency even across. And I'm going to stripe on that aventurine stringer. So I'm basically using the full thickness of the stringer, which is about maybe 2 millimeter, trying to get a nice concentration on there, and see it broke off right there. Because sometimes these stringers can be kind of shocky. But I think for the most part it did pretty well. So I'm just putting 5 little stripes around of the aventurine. And then I'm going to put in between those stripes, I'm going to put a skinnier stripe of the pea green. And that's basically it for the seaweed stringer. You don't have to put the pea green in. You can even put stripes of black in there if you want. But that's basically all the color you need. And so I could pull this out just like it is right now, and I have done it this way and just have a round stringer. But sometimes I like to pull out flat stringers so that they're a little wider and the stripes kind of spread out a little bit more. But you really don't have to do this. So I'm just placing it on my clear rod just because it's a little thicker and a little more control to it. And I have to get my tool, which was kind of buried. And I'm going to flatten this. So this doesn't have to be done. You don't have to flatten. But this will give you a lower profile stringer when you're striping things on. so you don't have this thick, rod sticking out from your glass. It'll be nice and flatter toward, into the bead. But you definitely don't have to do this. So I'm heating both sides, and I'm just going to pull it out, start pulling it out. And this will give me a nice flat stringer. And you can have thicker sections and thinner sections depending on what you want to apply these to. It's all up to you. But you could see how thin it is when I turn it. It's fairly thin. And it gives you a nice low profile on your bead. And it doesn't take much melting to get it all melted in. So I'm just going to separate this off, and I have my nice little seaweed stringer. And hopefully I get a close up here. So there's a seaweed stringer. See, it's like thicker and thinner in sections. But you could see the adventuring sparkling through there. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.